Today, I'm going to share some tips and tricks on keeping your gear protected while you're working with it or traveling with it in wet conditions, whether it's a Pacific Northwest rainstorm or a heavy squall in a small boat. Well, hey everyone, Hudson here, and I don't know about all of you, but it has been a particularly wet and somewhat cold winter here in Oregon. In fact, we're just kind of melting out from having 10.5 inches of snow here in Portland, and then a ton of hail and slush. And I've fielded an interesting number of questions from people this year about how to keep your camera gear tip-top dry and functioning in wetter weather conditions. So we're going to talk about that. That's something I have struggled with over the last 30 years and improvised different ways of dealing with it, both multi-day backpacking expeditions into places with weather changing, mountaineering trips, climbing Denali with gear to film a documentary, traveling on small boats from Lake Victoria to Patagonia to the Arctic, where conditions could be rough enough that you're concerned about your entire bag being inundated. And how do you deal with that? I had someone recently reach out to me with a question about, I'm heading on an Antarctic expedition and the seas are relatively rough. We'll be in small zodiacs. How should I make sure that my camera gear isn't destroyed, if a boat gets swamped? So I want to talk through how to handle everything from, light rain that's falling through that concern about having your gear completely inundated in some kind of a boating incident, whether it's a canoe or a zodiac in the Arctic or Antarctic for that case. So I'll start off just by saying that there's a couple of things. I'm going to share some gear tips. I'm going to share a really cool ultra lightweight dry bag that you can use in a pinch that I carry with me anytime I'm concerned about this kind of stuff. And I'll talk about some of the brands of choice that I use because they're so durable and so protective of my gear. And I'll put links to all of that stuff in this video's description, but you can also always just go over to my website, to my gear links, and you can always find those at hudsonhenry.com/ATS links. We're putting a clickable link here. But if you go to packs and straps and necessities, you'll find all this stuff. I'm putting everything in there. And these NYA-EVO bags are always over on my website. These are the best bags I've ever used, and they're great for this kind of thing that we're talking about, particularly the 60C, and I'll show you why in the course of this discussion. But it's also one of the reasons that I shoot personally with Nikon and that I've shot a lot with Canon in rough conditions around the world. That Nikon and Canon have just been building gear for professionals to take into rough conditions, from war correspondence to big National Geographic photography expeditions over the decades. They build gear that's built to withstand rough conditions, And in the early days of mirrorless, I dabbled with Panasonic and Sony and Fuji and some of their early mirrorless systems and bricked a few cameras in conditions that I was used to using my Nikon DSLRs in. And when Nikon first went to the, more electronic, more computer-based mirrorless camera system with the Z mount, I was really pleased to find that it was just as durable and just as water resistant and bomb-proof as the cameras I had used in the past. Over the years, I've chosen backpacks and sling bags and holders based on the same kind of criteria. What's going to hold up to rough abuse and bad weather? And that's why, one of the reasons why right now I love NYA-EVO. I think they're the best designed, built, and protective packs out there on the market, particularly this 60C when the conditions get rough. And I'm really, really proud to be selling these off my website. The bags and the removable camera inserts are so modular and so protective in rough conditions and come with everything you need to protect your gear. So let me sort of start off like we probably would. You're out somewhere, say the rainforest in Costa Rica. I got in these kinds of situations in the rainforest where, it starts out with a little drizzle and you suddenly are thinking, I'm going to reach into my bag and get my Gore-Tex jacket out. Oh, you know what? That's my down jacket in the top compartment. I rolled my Gore-Tex jacket up inside my bag. And this is my big wildlife kit, by the way. I have my 800mm lens, my 100-400, my 24-120, my 14-24, and my Z9 all packed into this bag with filters. And I'm going to show you how to protect all that gear from the little rainstorm through that big potential capsizing of your canoe. So, the first thing I'd probably deploy my Gore-Tex shell, for myself. But the pack has a nice environmentally friendly, durable water-resistant coating, DWR coating, on most of the packs out there that are serious outdoor photography packs. NYA-EVO certainly does, and it uses a DWR coating that is more environmentally friendly, doesn't have the carcinogens that some of the other packs out there have, along with using the EcoNil fabric, which is reclaimed from recycled fishing nets, which I think they're really working to be sustainable, and I love that about them. So you're cruising along and you realize, wow, it's really starting to rain. I'm worried the DWR coating is eventually going to start to get saturated and my gear might be getting wet if I don't do something. Well, also in this expansion pocket, I've got my pack cover. Now, NYA-EVO includes these with each of their packs, sized for the pack that you're working with. Other brands, some brands do. I think Lowe generally includes a pack cover. Other brands like F-Stop sell pack covers for their bags. You can always get pack covers. You go to REI with your backpack and they'll sell multiple sized pack covers. These aren't as breathable. It's really important that a backpack be breathable. If your gear is put away in this bag wet and it's not a breathable, permeable material, it's just going to sit in there and saturate in moisture. It can't breathe and release that moisture. Same thing with your Gore-Tex jacket or your waterproof jacket. It needs to be able to breathe some. So, eventually any material is going to soak through to a certain extent. But NYA-EVO includes this completely waterproof pack cover, which you can just take your pack off, slip that around it. It's built to go right over the pack that it comes with. And this is not breathable. This is a completely waterproof vinyl-lined shell that's not going to let any water through into your pack. So if you've got your Gore-Tex jacket on, it's a little warm here in the studio, or I demo it, and you pull this down over, you're gonna keep your gear nice and dry inside the pack. It isn't going to protect it if you're in the canoe and it rolls over, or the kayak and it rolls over, or your Zodiac's taking huge waves in the Antarctic seas. But this is great for a serious rainstorm. And you can still access your camera through it, which is really nice. I'm going to prove to you I have as much gear as I just claimed inside this bag. I have NYA-EVO's big removable camera insert in here with my 800 millimeter lens, my Z9, my 24 to 120, my 14 to 24, my 100 to 400, and my 6 112 millimeter filters that go on my HB97 hood. So that's all right there, accessible even through the rain pack. And let's say I'm shooting. That's another thing to talk about when you're out in the rain. Let's say I got my camera out, I'm running around. Let's say I'm using my my 24 to 120 lens. All right, so we got that guy. Or actually, let's use the 100 to 400. We'll talk about something a little bigger. That's a little bit more of a challenge yet. So I'll stick my 24 to 120 back in there, zip this guy up. And I'm going to pull the pack cover back just a little bit, get into that front pocket again. And I've got a little lightweight rain sleeve. There's a bunch of brands that make these. I've used Optech, I've used Rugged. Again, I've got links to them in my necessities section of my website. But just a simple little, it's almost like a Ziploc bag. You've got your camera, you're working with it, whether it's on the tripod or in your hands, and it's starting to get wet. Your camera's got good, decent waterproofing. Your first line of defense, in my perspective, is having, there's the button, a hood and a UV filter. So the hood is going to a certain extent, keep rain off the front of your lens. And then raining conditions are the most important time, to my mind, to be using that hood on your lens. I'm probably going to pull this off, stick it away if I'm not on the tripod. If I am on the tripod, obviously I'm using it. And then I'm just going to pull out this rain sleeve if conditions are getting really rough. And I'm going to slide it over my lens and camera body. All right, it's just essentially like a Ziploc bag for your camera system. And the ones I like have kind of an L shape to them. So, you know, if you're going to be working on a tripod, I might poke a hole for the lens foot and call this one disposed of. And then they have a cinch, and I like to put that cinch right around the lens's hood. And now with this pulled back, the glass is still exposed, and I can wipe that glass with a microfiber cloth. I always have a bunch of microfiber cloths with me. But I can turn on the camera, I can look through the viewfinder, through the plastic, I can look at the back LCD here to see what's going on back there. And if I hit play, I can still see what's happening on my back LCD. I can work all the controls through the plastic, and I'm keeping the camera dry. All right, these things are disposable. They don't cost that much money. This one's from Rugged. Again, like I said, Optech makes them. I keep a couple dozen of these in the van when I'm on workshops, just in case we hit some kind of a rainy situation with the workshop crew. That way I can hand these out to everybody, and people can keep their gear safe and dry while they're working with it. Okay, so that's that. You know, if I'm working on the tripod with a normal lens, I just put the bag over the tripod head too. Come up and clamp the L bracket right there, or the side L bracket. So there you go. That's my technique for working with a camera in the rain. I don't think you need to spend money on anything fancier than these, you know, in the $10 range. Sometimes they come in like 2 packs for 10 bucks. Disposable little rain bags. All right, so, you know, the rain has passed. You've got wet clothing. You've got this wet pack cover. What do you do with it? Well, I think a good pack cover, like what NYA-EVO's done here, has a way to hang it off your bag, like so. This has this little Velcro piece sewn into either end of it that Velcros back to itself, and you just hang that off your pack, or you can put it on your tent pole, you can hang it off a fence, whatever you want. Don't put this wet rain cover back into your bag. It's only gonna make everything in your bag wet. So you wanna go ahead and hang that off something to dry. You don't wanna be putting wet gear into your bag. Another nice thing, one of the reasons I love the 60C, you got these 2 little snaps right here, and this whole part pulls up. And this is a completely independent roll top dry bag that just expands out to add some more volume to the pack, but it's completely waterproof. It's that vinyl lined material, like a kayaking dry bag. And so one thing I do too, if I'm worried about gear getting wet that's really critical to me, this thing can work 2 different ways. I can take my down coat that I know I don't want to get wet because it's not going to be particularly warm if it gets wet, and zip it into that dry bag on the top of my bag and just not worry about it getting wet anymore. The other thing I can do is take wet gear and stuff it in there and know that it's only going to be wet in there. I can let that air dry later in a nice warm room by the heater, and it's going to keep everything else in my bag from getting wet. There's another cool thing that some backpacks have, including NYA-EVO. They include this cool little, they call it a shovel tail in mountaineering talk, but it's this little cool gizmo that has these plastic attachments that go right into these sewn in loops on the bag like so, and it just creates a little mesh, stretchy, adjustable pocket. You got these little adjusters to cinch it in or let it get bigger, and you can take your wet gear at the end of a wet chute and just stuff it in there to dry and carry on about your way. All right, so that's kind of my technique for dealing with adverse weather conditions. If I'm going to worry about the full inundation that we were talking about earlier, I'll just stow this stuff back in my bag while we talk about it. That isn't as complicated to deal with as you might think. I remember an episode in Kauai where we were going to get picked up by a boat from this really remote beach that we'd hiked into, and then the waves were too big to bring the boat in and easily get to shore. So we had to wrap our packs in trash bags and swim through the surf to the boats. And you know, that's a situation where you're like, well, what if that trash bag fails? You might be in that situation as the person who emailed me that's going to Antarctica and South Georgia Island, and you're really concerned about getting your gear soaked in the little Zodiac landing craft. Well, in those situations, what I do is I carry one inexpensive little accessory in my bag. Weighs less than a pound, costs, I think, $80, $70. This is a 65-liter dry bag made by this cool Australian company, Sea to Summit. And I carry these for my wet kite surfing gear in the car. I have like 4 or 5 of these, but this one is my photo one, and it folds up and slips into this expansion pocket on my bag. And what I can do, if I'm worried about my gear in a situation like the swim to the boat with my bag in the trash can, is to open up the back of my pack here and pull out my removable camera insert. Let's stick my 100 to 400 back in here alongside my 800 and my Nikon Z9 in here, and put the Velcro back over the both of them. NYA makes it really, really easy with the NYA-EVO packs. This is the Fjord 60C again, to get them out of the backpack. It's just 4 little pieces of heavy-duty sewn-in Velcro that pull in here and lock the pack in place. And then all you need to do, or the removable camera insert in place, all you need to do to get it out is release those 4 pieces of Velcro, lift up at the base of the pack. This is the large removable camera insert. There's also a medium and a small. And it's padded all the way around, but it has a removable front padded panel. So you just take that front panel back out. I keep it in there behind the camera just to keep it one more level of protection. I'll slip it into the zipper here and zip that guy back on. And, you know, say I'm getting in the boat, I can zip that back shut, set that with my puffy coat and gear that I don't want to get wet, zipped into the dry bag on top, slip my large removable camera insert inside the big dry bag. This is called the Big River Dry Bag. Again, I've got links in this video's full description. You click the title or show more. And I also have them on my website under packs and straps. And then what you want to do, if you're going to have this in the boat with you, is trap as much air in it as possible and roll the top down until it starts to turn into kind of a Stay Puft marshmallow shape, and then just snap it. Boom. And it can be tied in via these leash straps to the side of the boat. But now it's got enough air in it that it can float, and it's completely waterproof with your gear. You can get out of the boat with this on your back and this in your arm to walk to shore to go to work. Or, you know, if you're concerned that the situation might warrant you need to have both hands as you're getting out of the boat, you can do this a different way. You can pop this, and I've done this only a couple of times. And it's easier with the smaller removable camera inserts, but I'm going to prove to you that it's possible even with the big one with my 800mm lens in there. I'm going to scrunch this guy down, roll this top up with most of the air removed from it. All right, hopefully that's enough. There's still a little bit of air trapped in there. Well, we'll see if I did well enough. And you're going to just lever that guy into the bag again. With the big removable camera insert, you have to kind of get the top in a little past the opening there. Squeeze it in at the bottom. Let's see. It's a little harder in the dry bag, but it'll go. I've done this before. There we go. Yep. Whoop. Now you're not going to Velcro it in, obviously. You want to move any air that's in it up into the sort of top part of the compartment. Probably would have behooved me. There it is. That's going to go just fine. You got a little air in there. It's not a bad thing. You're going to go ahead. Careful not to catch that dry bag material in the zipper, even though it's really tough and I don't think you could damage it. You don't want to. We want that to remain waterproof. Zip that guy up. Boom. And now your dry bag is packed inside your backpack, and you could theoretically just throw that thing on, cinch its waist belt. I'll try not to mess up my mic too much. I know it's connected in under there. Do your little top pout. You probably have your waterproof gear on, an exposure suit or your Gore-Tex rain gear, and just move off the boat onto shore. Or you put this whole thing in the trash bag that you're swimming with to get out to the boat in the situation I described on Kauai. So, over the years, some of the tips and tricks that I've learned, I think it's well worth having one of these big river dry bags in your pack. Again, I think the NYA-EVO bag, it just doesn't get a whole lot better than these bags for moving around with a lot of gear in the wild. So hopefully a few of those tricks and tips help out for you guys in rough conditions. We've got some fun workshops this year coming up where, who knows, maybe we'll need to deploy them in Glacier National Park or Cuba in a horrible downpour or something. I doubt it. But if you've got some big expeditions, these are definitely things worthwhile. And I always have my pack cover, my Gore-Tex jacket, my camera rain sleeve, and usually I have the big dry bag too. It's only a pound. So you guys have any thoughts or other ideas, share them in the comments. Hit me up via email if you have questions. Again, links to all this stuff over at my website, hudsonhenry.com/ATS links. That's all the gear links that lead you to the products that I have used, stand behind, love, and use myself. Those links help me out, so I appreciate it when you use them. Quick before I go, I want a quick plug for office hours on March 7th. We're going to be talking about all things printing, whether you've never printed before and you're interested in getting into it, whether you've printed a ton and you just have some things to contribute or some questions about it, even if you just are thinking about how to best prepare a file to have someone else print for you. We'll take all those questions. It's just a big photography get-together meeting, free, Zoom and YouTube Live. Sign up for that at hudsonhenry.com/office hours or hit the link right there. Leave us a question when you sign up. 10 a.m. Pacific, March 7th, all things printing. Rick and I just ran an amazing workshop right here in this studio. We had 12, actually we did 2 workshops back to back, small workshops, 6 people each. We saw some beautiful prints coming out of here and some people really get through some stumbling blocks that they'd had with printing and excited going home to be doing their own printing themselves moving forward. So it's been a great time, and I've actually learned a ton and been printing a whole lot more stuff lately than I have in the past few months. I just got energized by everybody's energy. So I hope you're all finding ways this winter in the Northern Hemisphere, this summer in the Southern Hemisphere, to stay active, stay out there, stay creative. Hope you're having fun. And we'll see you next week.